This final section of the introduction to mindfulness, we're going to be looking at how to apply it, so some of the practical tips. Hopefully the previous sections have, in a sense, gotten the horse to water, that we might be interested in mindfulness and want to explore it more. But just the theory without the practice is a little bit like getting to the water but not drinking. So how can we apply mindfulness for our study life, but also for our personal and future professional life? Now, applying mindfulness in the workplace, in the study environment, for example, there are a few main things that we can do. The first thing is the formal practice of mindfulness meditation. And as was mentioned in previous sections, there are links to a variety of guided practices if you want to do that. You could start off with, say, 5 minutes twice a day, in a sense, like a full stop, punctuating your day before maybe you head off to university, and maybe again early in the evening between your day at the university and whatever you're going to get into that night. So before you get into your study or before you go out, again you might have 5 minutes. So they're two full stops, but you can also punctuate your day with like mini meditation practices. And they're like little commas during your day. So maybe you've just finished with a lecture, you've gotten to the library and you're going to start working on an assignment. Maybe you're not going to be taking 5 minutes, but you might just take 30 or 60 seconds to just put a little bit of space between the completion of one thing and the commencement of another. So punctuating your day with a couple of full stops and lots of little commas can be a great way for maintaining mindfulness throughout the whole of the day. Obviously, if 5 minutes twice a day is working well, then you can increase it to 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. It seems like it'll be a lot of time out of your day, but actually because of the improved focus and effectiveness, people actually get more out of their day, not less. So the reason for practicing mindfulness in the chair in terms of mindfulness meditation is so that we can be more mindful as we go about our day-to-day life. So the informal practice of mindfulness is really bringing that quality of attention to whatever it is that we're doing. So paying attention to the present moment, and the senses are always a gateway into the present moment. So tasting our food when we're eating, listening to the person who's speaking to us, walking down the street rather than walking and worrying, why not just walk and just feel the breeze? Sitting down and paying attention when we're studying. These are all aspects of the informal practice of mindfulness, so attention being fully engaged with what we're doing. Just moving through the day one step at a time. We might have 100 things to do before the end of the day, but at any given moment our attention's only engaged with the one thing that's the most important priority at that moment. So we're just doing one thing, and we'll get to priority number 2 and 3 and so on as we move through the day. There's no point in doing one thing while we're worrying about the 100, because that will distract from the one we're doing and make us feel much more pressured in a situation where we don't necessarily need to feel pressured. One of the other very important aspects of the informal practice of mindfulness is to avoid some of the things that Richard had spoken of previously about the negative impact of multitasking. Now, developing very efficient attention switching is a very useful thing, but avoiding multitasking as well. To cultivate the mindful attitude, as had been previously mentioned in other sections, open and curious and flexible and non-attached to the thoughts and feelings that arise. And some of them are unpleasant, but can we observe them without attachment to them? And again, mindfulness teaches how to do that. Doing things in non-habitual ways. So we might be doing things in the same way every time, so we do them on automatic pilot. But to do something in a non-habitual way demands more attention and keeps us more engaged. This is one of the ways, for example, Ellen Langer, who does from Harvard, who's done a lot of work with this, said for orchestras who play the same piece of music every night, to get them to actually play it in very subtly different ways keeps them a lot more alive, enjoying the music they're playing, and makes it a much more enjoyable experience for the audience. So doing things in non-habitual ways, looking for the novelty and differences in things. That for a young child, the world's full of wonder and interest and engagement, but for us, we sort of stop looking and we stop seeing interesting things. So that simple and natural curiosity about life and looking for the subtle differences in things helps to keep people and events interesting rather than just switching on to automatic pilot again. So the mindful attitude. And then there are a series of mindfulness-based cognitive practices as well. And for those who are looking at mindfulness and how it can help with issues like stress and anxiety and depression, These kinds of things are very helpful to know a bit about. Perception. When unmindful, we often perceive stressors that aren't even there, or we perceive something to be a far bigger issue than it actually is. And mindfulness helps us to perceive things just on their merits, no more, no less than what they are. So in a sense, just to come back to reality and see what's really in front of us. Letting go, or non-attachment. As we say, to hold an opinion or in the grips of fear, it implies that there's a thought or an emotion, but a very strong attachment to it. And we can actually observe the passing of thoughts and emotions without so much attachment. That gives us a bit of freedom from them and a bit of an ability to choose whether or not to engage with them. Acceptance. Now, because we're mindful doesn't mean that we're not going to experience maybe uncomfortable thoughts or emotions or physical sensations or events in our life. But mindfulness can teach us to cultivate an attitude of saying, well, if it's there, so a more accepting attitude. Let's say we're experiencing a wave of anxiety and we hate the fact that we're experiencing it, we desperately want it to go away. Then what we actually do is fixate the attention on it and increase the intrusiveness of that thought or feeling. So mindfulness helps us to, in a sense, accept the fact that it's there, to soften the attitude or the reaction to it, which makes it easier to notice it, but to not necessarily get dominated by it. And presence of mind, to just stay in the present moment. We've got a lot of work to do, that's fine, just work through moment by moment. We're worried about something in the future, come back to the present moment. Present moment planning and preparation is a mindful activity, worry is not. The one will be productive, the other will be unproductive and associated with anxiety. So learning to be in the present moment for a whole range of reasons is very important. If you do want to read more, there are resources, Mindful Learning, which Richard Chambers and myself, the mindfulness team at Monash have written and had recently published, if you want to read more about that, or Mindfulness for Life, which looks at a whole range of applications, not just educational, but others as well. So you can certainly read more about it if you want to. There are other things that you might be interested to look at. An Australian developed mindfulness website and series of apps and so on, Smiling Mind. And so that you might be interested to have a look at that as well. And there's a whole series of guided practices there too, like the body scan, for example. And there are levels for children, adolescents and adults, so there may be other people that you know who might be interested in it too. And so you can actually interact with that site and to log your practice and the outcomes and so on. Now, of course, at Monash University, there's a whole series of mindfulness programs you can do, so you might want to learn more about it and do a 5-week program in mindfulness for academic success, for example. You might be interested to explore some of the other well-being programs and mindfulness programs that are offered free for all students at Monash University. We won't go into them all now, but on the handout there'll be a series of slides, links and resources there that you may find useful. So we hope, Richard and myself, that you have found it informative and of interest and practical use for you, this introduction into mindfulness for law students. I'd like to thank Lloyd England and the team in the law faculty for the invitation to put this together, and we hope this is a valuable resource for you. We hope it's a springboard for a more productive and effective study life, but also that you see that mindfulness is a life skill that's going to be of much use to you in your personal and professional life for many, many years. So thank you for your attention, and please use the resources and explore the programs that are available to you at Monash. Thank you.